Hey, hello there. In this video, I'll be working with Live2D. A new version of the software came out recently, so I thought I would revisit this. You can see here a head model I created to test out 180-degree rotations, just to see how that would work out, to see how possible it would be to do, or how much of a challenge it would be, really. And I was pretty happy with it, but this was a month or more ago. I'm hoping with this new version it will be even easier, and instead of doing a line art style, I'll do more of a full color model. So here's a quick animation I did with the old figure I had. So I'm going to look to create something like this that has a bit more ability to rotate, and I'll just go through the process of creating something like this very quickly. So in Photoshop here, I've got everything parted out on its own layer or within a folder. And a lot of these parts, like the eye for example, broken down into component parts. So when I went to animate this particular model, this is all that I used. But for this new model I want to create, I'm going to use 3 different drawings for the different rotations. So I started out with a line drawing here. I did this in Corel Painter, and I messed around with some coloring in Photoshop. I got to this point here, I was pretty happy with it. I mean, the background isn't at all necessary, but it's in there just to look interesting. And one thing I won't be using is this side lighting effect here. I'd like to include this in the animation, but it's going to be this added layer of complexity, so I'm just going to leave that out, at least leave it out for now. Alright, so with the coloring done, I save it off as another file, and this time I more or less flatten the entire image, except for the background. And now I have to part out all of the different components. So you'll see here, eyes, nose, mouth, head, hair, that sort of thing. The hair is kind of temporary right now, it looks a bit wacky, but I figured it would be better than working with a bald head. Ultimately, it would be nice to just use this figure as a kind of a base, and maybe create a number of variations on top of it. Different hair, different clothing, that sort of thing. So even looking at just the legs here, there's quite a lot of layers. You might see some strange seams going on. That's because a lot of these shapes have to overlap. Alright, so now I'm moving over to Live2D. Just going to import that Photoshop file. Alright, so I've already done some work here to rig up some of these parts. Mainly just the torso at this point. So I can partially rotate the torso. I'm mostly finished with that shoulder joint, but it still needs some tweaking. Alright, so for a bit of demonstration here, I'm going to combine all of the parts of this 3/4 view head, just selecting all the different parts. And then I'm going to create a deformer, which for now is basically just going to be a folder. So I'll just make this forward-facing head transparent or invisible. I could either make them transparent and then try to line up the 3/4 head, or just make them outright invisible. I think what I'll do is just make them invisible over here. There we go, that looks right. Alright, so that's locked in place. Let me just get rid of everything other than the face. And we'll try to create a blend between the 2 face shapes to get this rotation working. Alright, so we got these parameters over here. And I'm going to have the head rotation happening on the angle Y parameter. Just going to increase the number of divisions on this grid. Alright, so I'm going to set up some keys on the parameter. In the center, that's going to be the forward-facing head. Right at the extremities, those will be the side-facing heads, which I haven't actually got in here yet. And right sort of in the halfway point on each side will be the 3/4 position. So we're just going to be working with these 2 positions here. So we'll need to do deformations on both heads. The forward head warping towards the 3/4 head, and the 3/4 head warping towards the forward head, if that makes sense. So it's a bit tedious doing this. You get that brush tool, and you can just do them manually, one by one, like this. It's not difficult, but it is tedious. So unfortunately, right here, I've got this sort of stub of an ear shape that I had drawn on the front portion of the head, so I'm not really going to be able to get rid of this very easily. It's sort of random shape sticking out there. If I really wanted to fix that, I probably would want to go back into Photoshop. For now, though, I'm not going to worry about it. So there you can see the shape moving from front-facing to three-quarter-facing. So now we have to do exactly the same thing with the three-quarter head, just warping back into the position of the front head. Unfortunately, the neck is sort of obscuring what's going on here. I'll have to get that out of the way. There we go, that's looking pretty good. I think everything lines up. Now I just need to key in some opacity changes so that they blend back and forth properly. So on this front head here, I'm going to key in 3 different points. So it's going to go from 100% to 0%. But then in the middle there, it's also going to be at 100%. Eventually I'll be doing the other side too, but that's for later on. And the same thing for the three-quarter head. There, now they should fade seamlessly back and forth. Let's see how that looks. I think that's working out pretty well. Now I just need to do all of that again for the other side, and including the side-facing head as well. Well, let's just turn that neck back on. You'll see how the legs don't quite attach at the bottom there. I haven't actually worked on the legs at all, but they should follow along with the torso as it rotates. So yeah, ultimately, after a lot of work, it should have the functionality of this line drawing here, but that's gonna take some time. Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope this was interesting.